Hello everybody, welcome back to High School Tutoring. I'm your host Manny, and today we're going to be learning about adding vectors and subtracting them using their components. So let's start with a little introduction. So this is a vector, as we all know. It's got its head and it's got its tail, or its tip, either one you could use for this. And we want to make this into its components. So I'm going to give you guys a minute to guess what the components would be, and then I'll explain it. Okay, and we're back. So now let's take a look at what I thought my answer was. So here should be my answer. Here should be your answer if you're going to use this. So what I did first was I looked at the tail of this vector, and you can see here that I can consider this as the kind of the origin point. Let's say 0, 0 on the graph if you were graphing this. So you can see it's going up, and it's going to the right. So it's got a positive y and a positive x, so we know it's in the first quadrant. So we know using this as we can infer, we have to go up and we have to go right. Obviously, if you write it really weirdly, if you write it down and then this way, that doesn't really work because our tail is not up here. So if I were to do down and right instead of up and right, I could show a screenshot. I'll show a screenshot that was over here of a video I did previously where I messed it up, and yeah, that's kind of it. That really is. Just make sure that when you're doing this up, try to get it as precise as possible. I know that drawing in like a notebook or something like this, or like a piece of paper using a pencil or pen is much more difficult than using obviously an image editing software like Photoshop for me, and it doesn't auto snap it, so it's the same size. But I mean, just get it as close as possible. It should be correct either way. So let's look at our addition. Now we're gonna adding stuff using components. So we have this problem. Add these two vectors by using their components. I'm just gonna start. So this is very similar to this one. I think I just copy pasted it. So we have our origin point, and we know it's in the first quadrant because it's going up and right positively. So we can pretty much infer what the components are gonna be for this. And for this one, pretty much the same thing. It's just this time it's in quadrant 4 because it's going down and it's going right. It's going right positively. It's going down negatively, or down positive. It's the same thing. But yeah, we can find our components there. And I'm gonna give you guys a moment just to pause the video and figure out what you think it is, and then I'm gonna come back and we're gonna begin. And I will explain how I found the solution for this. Okay, and I'm back. So let us take a look at the solution. So this solution is the solution would be right here, but let me explain how I found it. So for these components, this one's pretty simple. It's kind of the same as over here. Just do the same type of thing where you would go up corresponding to where the tip is, and you would go to the right again corresponding where the tip is, like that. Or we could go down, or for this one, we're going down corresponding to where the tip is, and we're going to the right corresponding where the tip is. So now we have the components, and what we do now is we add the vertical components together, so up or down, and then we add the left and right components, so horizontal. So let's see here for the vertical. The bold lines are the resultant for these. So if we add this vertical one, so we're going up, it's just this, and then we add this down one, which means we're going up and then we're going back down to about here. We're going up by this distance. So that would be our vertical component for this answer. And then for the side, we just take both of these sides, put them together. And here you can see we have one and then the other. We add those, and this is our resultant. And then we put this top one there, and we just find our middle, find our resultant here. And you can see it's much easier for me, obviously, because I could draw it much more accurately. But if you can't get it, use a ruler and maybe find a plot point here. Here's what I could recommend. Find this, draw a line to draw your opposite components. So this would be the top bit. It would be left and down. Draw your opposite components, and then put a point on the origin point there. And you literally can just draw from here with a ruler and then put an arrow, obviously, and then just erase the rest. That's my way of doing it, but you don't have to do the same thing. So let's take a look at our subtraction problem. Now subtract these two vectors by using their components. Obviously, we all know that when you have a subtraction value, you have to flip this completely, so the tip is going to be where the tail is, and the tail is going to be where the tip is. So yeah, we have it now here, and I'm going to give you guys a minute. Now find the components of this, don't find it of this. Or you could, but this is just making it, that'll just make it more difficult when we have to flip it. So just find the components of this, and then try to solve. And I'll be right back. Okay, and I'm back. So I hope I gave you enough time, especially if you paused the video. But now let's see here. So we have our components now of each of these. You see how I left this one out? I didn't want to make it hard on myself, so I just did this one. So we have our up and we have our left component. So this is in the second quadrant, as it is going positively up but negatively horizontally. And this one is in the third quadrant because it's going negatively horizontally and negatively vertically. So now we have our adding. We're adding these two together. Now we can just solve. Realistically, now we can just do the same thing that we did before. We have our vertical and horizontal and vertical components and our horizontal. Now see how I have this x'd out? That means that it went up the same distance and it went back down the same distance. So we had no change in this vertical or horizontal, or in these verticals, not the horizontals. And in the horizontals, we just add these together, obviously, as we did up here. This time we're going to the left, and this is our resultant. We don't have a vertical value, so our resultant is just going to be a straight line on the x-axis going in the third/fourth quadrant. The angle for this would be 180. The angle for this, I'd have to have number values to be able to find that. But yeah, that's really it. That's really it for this video. Numerical values, just having numerical values would make this easier, but just finding components in general is a very useful thing, especially for when you want to just find how an arrow is generated. So you can find a right triangle doing this. And once you find the components, you really can make it into a right triangle. You can move this value over here, same thing vice versa down here, and then obviously this, just move this down, or move this here, and you'd have a right triangle either way. These are just the left and the left, up, down, right of these. And yeah, I hope this helped you. It's much shorter, but this video is one of the more important ones that you should know. Obviously, all of them are important. You should know all the topics, but this is like one of the things that you really want to know, especially later on tests and quizzes, because these are what's going to be mostly focused on. Maybe not adding without numerical values. With numerical values is going to be mostly what's going to be on these. But otherwise, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and or learned something from this, because a lot of you probably already know this, but if you learn something from it, that would be probably very helpful. That would be very helpful to me. But I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.